Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions here to talk about The X-Files, Season 2, Episode 2, titled The Host. The episode's description reads as follows. Mulder pursues a humanoid parasitic organism that uses sewage systems as its home. The episode was written by Chris Carter, and the episode was directed by Daniel Sackheim, who, amusingly enough, would work with Carla Mack in Harsh Realm. He last directed Conduit of this series. The episode originally aired on September 23rd, 1994. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and give me a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like and share and comment and subscribe to my channel. Alright, so I have always been fond of this episode. So far, in Season 2, we are 2 for 2. The episode has a somewhat mixed reputation, but the Flukeman is an iconic villain within the series. The X-Files wiki says, Carter claimed to have been inspired to write this episode based on 3 incidents: his dog having worms, his research into Chernobyl, and the extinction of a species during the 1990s. We begin the episode with creepy music, you gotta love that Mark Snow score, on a Russian boat. A man is attacked and dragged into the tanks are emptied, and we get an ominous shot of the tanks being drained. And credits. After the credits, Mulder is still continuing his boring assignment, but he is relieved by someone and told he has a flight to catch to investigate a murder in New Jersey. Skinner requested him, which surprises Mulder. The body is found in the sewer, which Mulder has to go into. I wonder if the Ninja Turtles or Shredder were responsible for this. The body has no ID and nothing to go on. Mulder is peeved, thinking he's wasting his time. He tells them to wrap up the body and send it to the FBI under the care of A.D. Skinner. Somewhere on all this is the second appearance by William McDonald, who we just finished talking about in my bonus podcast of the 5th season episode, Chinga. Mulder goes into Skinner's office trying to get in to speak to him. His secretary tells him he's busy, but Mulder persists. Mulder asks Skinner if his next punishment is cleaning the bathroom with a toothbrush. Skinner tells him he's out of line. Mulder says, so he gathered. Skinner says, fine, and to step into his office. Mulder does so, and finds himself looking at a bunch of men. Mulder realizes he made a bit of a mistake here. Skinner tells him to tell the room why he considers his current assignment to be a waste of time. Mulder said it seemed like a drug murder dump, not the kind of thing that the Bureau usually wastes its time with. Skinner says Mulder isn't the best judge of what is wasting time. Oh, snap! Oh, no, he didn't. He tells him that the X-Files are closed, and that he will carry out his new assignments to the best of his abilities. Is that not clear? Mulder says that it is. Mulder sits in a park and is joined by Scully. Scully says she heard about his meeting with Skinner, basically saying that she heard that he really endeared himself to Skinner that morning. Mulder is considering leaving the Bureau. Scully suggests a transfer to behavioral sciences, and Mulder says they don't want them working together, which is the only reason he has to stay. She asks about his current case. He says it's a loser, nothing to it, but she says there's a body. So she ends up performing an autopsy, and she ends up discovering a fluke worm in the body. Back at the crime scene, another man is attacked and barely managed to be saved. He's got a bite wound from something, but we don't know what. He's played by Matthew Bennett. 89 credits for him, including 19-episode stint on Battlestar Galactica, and at least a few spin-offs of that series. The worker is examined by a doctor. Mulder is there, and he still thinks he's wasting his time. The doctor is played by Gabriel Rose, who was in Deep Throat as the wife of the test pilot, Mrs. Budahas. He talks to the man and asks him some questions, and he sees the wound, and then gets a phone call from Scully about the parasite. He gets another call from a mysterious figure that tells him he has a friend at the FBI, and then the man hangs up. This, of course, is Mr. X, played by Stephen Williams, who we won't meet properly until a couple of episodes from now in Sleepless. He's got 155 credits. He appears in 14 episodes of this series, not counting this one because it's an uncredited role here. He was in 21 Jump Street, the series, and appeared in the movie 22 Jump Street, reprising his character from that series, although he has a different rank at this time. Scully is filling him in on the parasite she found, but found no other cause of death. Mulder asks how they attach themselves, and he shows them a picture of the worker's wound. Scully is skeptical, saying it's a small creature, but Mulder asks How big can these things get? Scully laughs and is reminded of the good old days. Scully tells him that they are not creatures that go around attacking people. Mulder jokingly says he didn't want to have to tell Skinner that the suspect was a giant blood-sucking worm. He brings up the weird phone call and would prefer her not launching a campaign for him. She says she would not betray a confidence and had nothing to do with the mysterious phone call. The attacked worker takes a shower and tries to get the taste out of his mouth. He discovers blood in his mouth, and in the shower he coughs up a flukeworm that goes down the drain. Mulder talks to a sanitation boss played by Rob Swab, also appears in a third season episode titled Testos Bichos, in an episode that I will probably not cover. He has 36 credits for him, including 2 episodes of Millennium and Reindeer Games with Gary Sinise and Ben Affleck. Mulder wonders if he ever saw anything like the fluke that he has in a jar. And nope, but it wouldn't surprise him. We see a worker down by the tanks, he hears splashing, and sees something that brightens him. He calls his boss and tells him he needs to get down there immediately. The worker managed to trap the creature, and it turns out to be a giant blood-sucking worm after all. The guy is played by Don McKay, who previously played the judge who would not give Boggs a deal in Beyond the Sea. Scully narrates her conclusions and gets a paper slid under her office. She sees no one, but it's about the boat incident seen in the cold open. Mulder asks Scully and brings her to see the flukeman. It has no gender, according to him. Darren Morgan, who plays the flukeman, is the brother of producer-writer Glenn Morgan, and would go on to write some of the series' most popular installments. He would be a story editor on Season 3, as well as working on Millennium. This won't be the last time we talk about him. The flukeman suit took 6 hours to put on. At one point, Darren Morgan had to wear it for 20 consecutive hours. He had to relieve himself while wearing the suit. Because the suit did not permit Darren Morgan to breathe through his nose, he was not able to breathe while wearing it. And gee whiz, does that sound extremely pleasant. I'm sure he had a really fun time with that experience. The look of the flukeman appears to be strongly based on a birth defect known as ichthysosis, and that's my best guess as a pronunciation for that. Babies with this birth defect are born with extremely dry, cracked skin resembling scales or armored plating due to a defect in the gene that directs skin cell division, causing them to divide and grow faster than the body's ability to shed them, also causing their mouth to be pulled into a wide circular gape due to the tightly pulled skin and giving them an alien appearance. In all except a tiny handful of cases, the babies born with it don't live longer than a few days, a week at most. Because the skin cells divide so rapidly, their bodies simply can't consume and process enough nutrition to keep up with cellular division. And this is all according to the X-Files wiki page. The flukeman suit dissolved in water, forcing special effects artist Toby Lindala to reconstruct the suit every day. That sounds like a big pain in the butt. Scully has discovered the identity of the man found in the sewer, and it's the Russian that we saw at the beginning of the episode getting dragged into the tank. A connection she made after getting the paper, and a connection I'm only making years after the fact of watching this episode for this podcast. I did not previously make that connection. Scully tells Mulder that she would consider it more than a professional loss if he decided to leave. Skinner and Mulder have a meeting. He looks through his report and says everything looks in order. Mulder chuckles, and Skinner asks if there's a problem. Mulder is laughing at Skinner's lack of reaction. Skinner says he had his reaction that morning when talking to the DA about the prosecution. This meeting is to evaluate his work. Mulder says there is no way they'll prosecute this. The DA wants to send it to an institution. This is not a man, Mulder says. This is a monster. And he finds out from Skinner that the other worker is now dead as well. Mulder says he had a pair of agents that could have handled this case. My money is still on those 2 people being dead, though, even if Mulder and Scully were still on the X-Files. Much to my surprise, Skinner agrees, saying this should have been an X-File. And he says to Mulder that they all take their orders from somewhere, and dismisses Mulder. The creature is transferred, but the creature gets the best of the EMT workers that I think are taking him in, and he ends up crawling into a porta potty, which is then taken away into a truck that cleans those things out. Mulder is on the scene of the 2 new dead people, and gets another call from the mystery man, who is telling him that success in his current assignment is imperative. The reinstatement of the X-Files is imperative. Mulder realizes that the flukeman is in the tanker truck and goes back to the sewage plant. Scully calls Mulder and tells him that if it finds a new host, it could multiply. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it already has. The foreman and Mulder go into the sewer system, trying to prevent it from going back out to sea. In the middle of this, the foreman is attacked. Mulder saves the foreman and cuts the flukeman in half. And, by the way, did the foreman get bit? Is he the next victim that dies? We don't end up hearing anything about that, but, Mulder is in the park, joined by Scully. She asks what Skinner said, and Mulder quotes X about the X-Files need to be reopened, and she's like, wait, that came from Skinner? Mulder says no, from their new friend at the FBI. And, not to quibble here, but Mr. X is not actually part of the FBI, so his statement is actually technically incorrect. She says, nature didn't do this thing. We did. The radiation, etc., etc. Mulder says, 3 species disappear every day. You have to wonder how many new ones are created. And we cut back to the sewer and eventually see a new flukeman. And that is where the episode ends. Like I said, pretty good episode. Next week we got Blood, which is also a pretty decent episode. Until then, that's all I have for you for this video. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Core Productions, signing off.